I would say so. I think that just has to do with our collection is mostly ball pythons at this time. So we've bred a lot more of them, and it's easy because that's like our number one sale item, I should say.
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of people that want to come up and buy a ball python, but there's not a lot of people that want to come up and buy a carpet python. So it's easier, there's a lot more customers for ball pythons than there are some of the other stuff. And since we're both mostly breeding ball pythons, it's easier to say that would fund all the other little niche projects that we have. I don't think we could have got the white lips or anything else like that if it wasn't for the ball pythons. So
yeah,
definitely,
especially not the duns without the ball pythons.
Yeah, so I mean, we put everything back into the hobby, and so being able to, because I think we have on average, 10 ball python clutches right now per year.
Yeah, that's an average.
But yeah, that is able to fund all of the other little oddball projects we have, which is I'm really thankful for. I would say we definitely go into it making the animals that we want to make, and Kendra and I will just sit down and be like, okay, look, this is what we want to hold back for the season, and this is what we want to kind of put on the table for expos. And that being said, we don't really plan to make ball pythons to sell. I would say we make it because we want to keep it.
Yeah, we'd like to,
and then all the excess we kind of sell.
But. Yeah, to further our projects with that. Further our ball python projects anyway. So we go into it with the mindset, hey, we're going to pair 40 animals, but like that's not life. Everything's not perfect. So if we get 10 clutches, if we get 8 clutches, like for us, that's still a win at the end of the day, but we don't necessarily go into it with the mindset or the hope that all 40 clutches, or we get 40 clutches out of 40 pairings. It's a bonus if we get more or if all of them go, but that's not the case every single time.
We breed to make things to hold back most of the time. And then all the other stuff we kind of sell, depending on if it's a male or female, kind of what we need for our own collection wise. But in the end, I don't think it's breed to sell. It's breed to keep. And then the extra stuff we kind of sell. I would say the biggest takeaway from the green anaconda experience was we in the hobby do not give anacondas the husbandry that they deserve. When we first got her, the previous owner had her when she was, I think, 11 feet in a 55-gallon tank.
This is just Nikki.
Right? This is just Nikki, the biggest girl we had. And then when we got her, we put her in an 8-foot enclosure with a 55-gallon pond. Now, she was in that pond 95% of the time. Most of the time you see in the hobby, they're giving the anacondas like a concrete tub for a water dish in an 8-foot enclosure. I don't think that's necessarily enough for this species, given the fact that in the wild, they're spending most of the time in the water. And you can see that natural behavior once you start, giving that opportunity to them.
Yeah, and I think that really paved the way for us to like take that ideology and implement it for the other species that we keep. Having arboreal hides, having more naturalistic setups, having, not just paper, or like I think a lot of people use like the puppy pads or whatever for like different species, having ReptiChip, having like real or fake plants in enclosures, giving them the opportunity to display that natural behavior has been really, really fascinating.
And you got to be honest with yourself too. Like we realized, hey, this is not something that we can give for each anaconda that we had. So it was a project, okay, hey, this is not for us. We need to move it on to somebody that can take on this project. And I think you need to be honest with yourself as a keeper, especially if you're dealing with big constrictor species.
Everything is run by me, and I pretty much kidding. No, it's definitely a joint discussion that we have because there's a lot of factors that go into it, right? Finance is obviously a big one. Availability is definitely a big one. I think when we get into different species, we really have to prioritize, something that we're both super passionate about. And it's not just something like we're kind of interested in. We're just like, hey, it's available, let's get it. It's more of like a joint. I don't know. It's got to be joint. We both have to agree on, hey, this is the right time. We have the right resources, and the timing's right for everything else that we can get into this.
For example, when Savu's popped up as far as something we could get, that was her bucket list animal.
Yeah.
So it was something like, okay, hey, this is what we're going to get right now. And, we ultimately decided to pull the trigger and get 3 girls, which I'm very glad we did.
Yes.
So as far as pairing up stuff, I think Kendra is the best at this. She'll write down a list of every female we have, every male we have, and then we'll look it up. Just look at it and just figure out where we want the projects to go. I think most of the time it's with the other species, it's easier because it's just, white lip with a white lip. The ball pythons with the different combinations, that's when it gets a little bit more tricky. Like, do we want to make a long-term recessive project, or do we want to make something visual right now? I definitely want to get more into the rat snakes, and she's like, no. All they do is they paint the walls. We only have rats, the Everglades rats right now, but it's definitely just something that I want to focus on, but she does not.
They're messy. But Geoff really loves them. So we might compromise and maybe get them eventually in 10 years. But it's one of those things that, yeah, the rat snakes are something that he definitely wanted. I want Sensinia, but I think
I also am okay with that.
Yeah, so. I think he's okay with that. So it works out.
I would say what makes Apodora stand out from other species is the fact that they change color throughout the day. So they're like Kendra have always said, they're like a living mood ring. You can go in there and they'll be this bright, nice green, or they'll be this like really dark, almost black color, or they'll be a little bit mix of a both, have a nice, almost like a stripe down their back. And they're incredibly strong. We had the anacondas, we've had other animals, I've had retics in the past. The Apodora, definitely the strongest snake that we've ever had. And I think that definitely makes them stand out. As far as comparing them to another species, I'd say they're smart like a scrub. They're always, calculating, where you're at. They're not really going to bite you and, wrap you up, but they will give you nice bluff strikes and show that black mouth that they have. They're pretty terrifying at times.
Yeah, that's super fun when all the Apodora cages are at eye level.
Oh yeah, definitely have its moments. And then as far as another similar to another species that they are would be white lips. That iridescence is it's amazing, especially when they're really dark and you take them outside, they shine. It's just awesome. I don't know how else to explain it.
Yeah, I wouldn't say their attitude is definitely nothing like a white lip.
No.
But
yeah, a lot more calmer.
Yeah, much more calm. They're fun to work with. They're large and in charge, and they let you know. But they can be so sweet at the same time. Little puppy dogs. So just, I guess it kind of depends on your experience with them. And
their eyes, they're really big and they sit right at the front of their face. It's kind of, they're almost dorky sometimes. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, they're a little derpy.
But once you see them in person, I think that's when you really can, start to appreciate what an Apodora is. They are becoming like the it snake right now. They definitely deserve some of that, appreciation with the fact that they change all the time. They can be moody, have their own little personality. Sometimes they want to, keep that hook for an hour and you cannot get it away from them. When we first got one out and it was in quarantine, it wrapped up the hook and we just could not get it off.
That was a fun day.
It was awesome. Yeah. They've honestly been one of the easiest snakes we've had to be able to keep. You keep them like any other python you would keep, with a hot spot of the mid to high 80s. And they never have a complete shed for us. It's always in pieces, but it's never like stuck shed issues or anything like that.
I would say they're on the easier side, but if you have the right resources, right? So having, a 6 foot, 8 foot cage is definitely like a necessity for something that's going to get, pretty big. Yeah, I think besides the shedding issues, that's about it. They're pretty easy. I'm not sure why a lot of these like more niche species are considered advanced when they're like almost anything else we keep. They're just different.
I would say when it comes to breeding, though, you do have that fear of the female eating the male. So there is that. A lot of people will typically have a backup male just in case. We haven't, in our experience, had any problems when it comes to pairing up the male to female, but I have heard of situations where the female got a little hungry and there was only one Apodora in the cage afterwards. Other than that, I think they're relatively easy.
First. Okay, snacks, because snacks are life. Seriously, if you we always bring a cooler with drinks and snacks just because you need energy and you don't necessarily want to have to step away from the table every time you get a little hungry. I would also say that even maybe before that would be just your attitude. Attitude plays a big factor when you're vending a show that I don't think a lot of people necessarily appreciate, because if you're sitting behind your table, sitting on your phone, talking with other people, not really paying attention to people that are coming up to your table, that can really leave kind of a bad taste in people's mouths.
You're not approachable.
Yeah, absolutely. You wouldn't be necessarily approachable. And I think so having a good attitude coming into it, being charismatic, being engaging with people, I think is super important. And then with that, kind of follow through is something that Geoff and I like to do. And it's all about the kids at the end of the day. A lot of the shows that we do locally, there's a lot of children that are involved or that come in and see their shows. So having something for them, because they won't necessarily be able to go home with an animal, right? We wouldn't necessarily want that either. But having something tangible that they can go home with, so stickers, these little gel bracelets, little toys, candy, anything to get them more engaged and more involved with education, getting them to ask questions and seeing what their favorite animal is, etc. That's always super fun for us. And I think that's an important aspect, because at the end of the day, kids are the future of this hobby. They're the ones that we need to be more involved with when it comes to the education side of things.
Another thing would be, what is it called? Those mats
the anti-fatigue.
Anti-fatigue mats. Those definitely are a lifesaver for your feet. You're going to be standing, 10 hours a day, especially if it's a 2-day show. It's going to start to wear and tear on your feet and your whole back, everything. So those are a lifesaver. And then lastly, I would say helpers, because you're going to want to step back and, have that snack, like she said, or, take a bathroom break real quick. And if you have a helper there, you can leave your table and not worry about someone walking up and just taking something, or you can just take a break and walk around the show and kind of enjoy that. Another great thing that helpers kind of help with is if there's, 2 customers that are coming up and talking to you, then your helper can kind of talk to them. And so you're not missing out on a customer potentially. Definitely all those things, but mindset would be number one. I think that we answered this.